It's the Wolf Media Festival podcast. Today's guests. From the film, A Long Road to Tao, actor Jason Bernardo. And now, here's your hosts, Kyle Hollingsworth, Richard Wilmore, and Jack Quellen Wolfhart.
Our guest today is the incredibly talented Jason Bernardo. You'll recognize him as Calvin Klein from Hulu's Welcome to Chippendales, and he's also the star of the Wolf Media Fest award-winning film A Long Road to Tao. Based on a true story, Jason portrays Lance, a professional surfer battling AIDS in the late 80s. To prepare for this role, Jason underwent a remarkable physical transformation and immersed himself in the world of surfing and spirituality. Please welcome Jason Bernardo. Hi, Jason.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to have you here.
Nice to be here. Nice to meet you.
What a great intro.
Yeah, I know.
I am available to hire as an intro writer if you need it.
There you have it.
What got you into acting?
I took kind of an unusual path. I didn't start acting until I was deep into my mid 30s, which is, I think, late for a lot of people in this industry. It's funny, my dad was an actor, didn't work a lot, but that was his passion when he was young and always wanted me to be an actor. And I think most kids rebel from their parents and they go, I'm not going to be a banker or a real estate agent. I'm going to be an actor. And mine was like the opposite. I was like, I'm not going to be an actor. I'm going to be a real estate agent. And I did that. I did a lot of things for a long time. And I guess in my mid 30s, I had a bit of an early midlife crisis, you could say. And I had success and had all the things I thought I wanted and felt like I was living someone else's life. I felt like an artist without an art. I felt like I had something to say and express, and I didn't know what that was. And I moved to LA, not to be an actor, was trying all these other things. I was managing musicians and a little of this, a little of that, writing, thought maybe it was writing, and sort of living in LA, people kept going, oh, are you an actor? You kind of look like you could be an actor, and I'm going, no, the one thing the world needs less than another real estate agent in San Diego is another actor in LA. Like, that's ridiculous, But I've had the fortune and the privilege of having things in my life that I've just loved so much. Like I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that was a big one where I'll never forget the first day I walked into a Jiu-Jitsu class, and I just knew immediately, like, this is something I want to do forever. And my life experience had kind of taught me that, I was doing things that I didn't really love, and I would see people who loved it, and I would be like, well, I can't compete with that. So I kind of got to this point where I'm like, the world's so competitive, you just have to do what you love. If you do something you don't love, someone's going to beat you at it, And so I promised myself that if I ever had the feeling that I had the first day I walked into a jiu-jitsu class, and it was something I could do for a living legitimately, I would drop everything and commit to it. And then I bumped into a guy by the name of Guy Camilleri in Venice Beach, who was an acting coach, and he invited me to come audit his class. And about 5 minutes into the class, I was like, oh crap, this is going to be hard. I was really hoping this wasn't it, but this is it. I knew right away that it was something I had oddly been training for my whole life and didn't know that I had been training for it my whole life, if that makes any sense,
Wow, that's such a opposite story from so many, right? Like,
yeah.
You got sucked into it. You couldn't help yourself. It was just destined for you. That's fun. Wow.
I mean, I have friends now who were producers and in the film industry and got sick of it, and now they're really great real estate agents. I was kind of like went different, but they love it. And I watch, my friend Adam Brower. I'm just going like, he's the reason I got out, because he's really loves doing it and he's great at it. And I was good at it, but I didn't love it the way that I needed to,
Yeah. So I heard that you got into surfing for this role, but weren't you an avid surfer already?
Yeah. I started surfing. Well, I really started surfing when I was about 21 or 22. I was born in San Diego and lived near the beach until I was about 10 years old. And I was in the water a lot as a kid and started to kind of flirt with it. And then we moved to Northeastern Ohio, which is a very cruel trick to play on a 10-year-old. Parents out there that are considering moving from San Diego to Akron, just think long and hard about it before you do that to a child. Yeah, and then when I moved back to San Diego and I was 21, 22, I started surfing every day, and I've been an avid surfer ever since.
Nice. And is this the first role that you've had to bring that skill to, or have you had other roles where you've needed to?
I've done commercial stuff, or in water and surf stuff, but this is the first, this is the first acting role where I really brought that part of myself to the role. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if you could tell everybody about the film A Long Road to Tao.
Yeah, Long Road to Tao it's based on a true story. It's a really heart-wrenching and touching true story. Michael A. Allen, who you had on the podcast, it's his story of his best friend that he grew up with. They were surfers growing up in Santa Cruz and surfing up and down the coast. And, his friend sort of disappeared for some time and was on the surf tour and kind of dropped off, and no one really knew where he was. People thought maybe he was dead. And then he shows up one day in Santa Cruz and kind of says hello to his friend before leaving all his surfboards for his friend. And so the character in the movie, Dane, who's based on Michael, he decides he needs to go find where his friend went. He's not going to let him go again. And why would a surfer leave his boards? That doesn't make any sense. And so he goes on a bit of a vision quest to find his friend, and sort of serendipitously, coincidentally, these things happen. And he ends up finding him at his sister's home in New Mexico, where he's dying of AIDS. And this was 1989 when HIV and AIDS was really kind of a death sentence. Not kind of, it was a death sentence at that time. And yeah, the friend had been in the closet, and in that really sort of macho surfing culture of that time period, it was not, very cool to be gay. And so he hid that from his friend and hid it from everyone. And so it's the story of these two friends and their love for each other, and confronting all of that, confronting the dishonesty, confronting the, the general homophobia in the culture, and ultimately facing death together.
What did you think when you first got the script?
It's interesting. When I first got the audition, which there's a great story behind that, I'm a surfer. I am actually, I don't know if I would call myself a Taoist, because I don't really call myself anything, but I've studied Taoism for a long time. I'm into martial arts. My father's into, Chinese practices of health and longevity and philosophy and spirituality. And I was already someone who read the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching and knew a lot about these things. So initially I saw the material and just thought, oh, this is like made for me. Like, I know I can do this. I also lost a lot of weight growing up as a wrestler and in jiu-jitsu competitions and stuff. So I knew that with the sickness, there would be a need to probably lose some weight. And I knew I could do that. So I'm someone who leans into the material that's hard and sometimes dark or shadowy, or not for the faint of heart. I actually really enjoy creating art that covers that kind of stuff. So I was really just honored. I mean, the idea that someone lost their best friend 20 years ago and spent 20 years of labor to get this story out, and then they choose you to embody that friend, is incredibly humbling, and such an honor. So, I was immediately just honored and humbled, and just really motivated to do justice to Rick's memory.
Mm, that's beautiful. And beyond losing weight, which, I don't know how you do that, but amazing. How did you prepare for putting yourself into the emotional mindset of someone grappling with AIDS, of someone with that sickness? And also, I'm curious, alongside that, did you meet other people who had lost others to AIDS? How did you navigate getting familiar with that to sink into?
Yeah, I mean, I went down all the rabbit holes, right? Whether it be Dallas Buyers Club in Philadelphia and these, Angels in America, the play and the TV show. I mean, I just really submerged myself in every bit of art that I could find that spoke to this, as well as documentaries. There's a really, really great and gut wrenching documentary that I'm not going to remember the name of right now, that was done around, specifically what it was like in New York City in the late 80s with the pandemic, or the epidemic of AIDS and HIV. So, also I have people in my community, my um, is a gay man who is HIV positive and lived with it for years and lived in New York in that time period. So he was incredibly helpful, just really first hand talking to him about what was going on back then. But yeah, every article, every book, every film from, that touched on that subject matter, I just dove into it all.
Do you feel like this movie, this role that you've done, because I know you've done a lot of different things, but the heaviness and the depth of this story, do you feel like it's changed you? Would you say that
Oh,
in a way?
without a doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how it couldn't, I mean, it's one of the great things I think about being an actor is you no matter how much we think we put ourselves in other people's shoes, there's a different level of um, having to use your imagination and um, really imagine what it's like to be in someone else's circumstance, that just goes deeper than I think we're typically really motivated to do in day-to-day life. So, I mean, you know, I'm a heterosexual man, and I have a lot of homosexual friends, and that was another big thing. Not even just the AIDS part, but just what it's like growing up as a man attracted to men and not being able to talk about that, and especially in that time period. So I think it just, if nothing else, your level of compassion and understanding for other human beings that are experiencing life in a different way than you're experiencing is stays with you forever. There's a level of empathy and understanding that I think we can certainly aspire to and want to have, but there's something else that happens when you go this deep into a character.
Was there any fear about portraying this character, since it's a real person, since you know people in your life who have AIDS? Like, was there any fear of, like, I'm not going to do this justice?
um yeah, I mean, I think that it's human nature when you're doing something like this to go through ebbs and flows of confidence and insecurities. I mean, there's days where you're like, feel like, you really got a handle on the material, and there's days where you go, wow, like, how am I going to do this? But I think that that's with every role, and gosh, probably with every job there is out there. I mean, when we take on hard things, that's just the nature of I would say, if in a way, if I wasn't experiencing that, maybe then I would really worry that I was getting a little too full of myself, or my abilities. But again, it's like, it's one of the great things about acting is you just have to do the work and trust it's going to be there, and throw all that out the door when it comes time to film, because you don't want to have that in your head. You just have to um, be true to the moment and the work that you did, and trust that it's going to show and read the way that you hope it does.
I know that it's very exciting when you hear news that your film is winning Wolf Media Fest awards. But also, I want to hear what it's like when Hulu calls and says, "Hey, you want to do a project with us?"
I like
um, yeah, no, was a good day, you know. It's exciting, you know. I mean, the, they're both exciting for different reasons, if it makes sense. I mean, doing these indie films that have so much heart and soul to them. I mean, you know, the creative fulfillment of that is really something that, you know, I think even you look at whoever, Ed Norton or these, you know, they do this too, right? They go and do Prada ads so that they can do Wes Anderson movies and things that maybe sometimes you know, don't pay as much because they want to do the art, and that's what's great about these indie films. Hulu is great because I think Welcome to Chippendales is a really, really great show. It's really gritty. It's great acting, Murray Bartlett and Camille Nanjiani, and I mean, you know, I had my first like sort of starstruck moment of Juliette Lewis. When I saw Juliette Lewis's chair, I was like, that's, you know, I mean, I grew up with Oliver Stone and that's Mallory Knox. That's the Natural Born Killers. But, you know, I'm going like, it's Mallory Knox's chair.
It's her chair. Do you have a picture somewhere of you like next to it? Like,
I don't. I'm like, I'm one of those people. I just don't do a lot of. I don't know. I'm one of those people who grew up like when you score the touchdown, you hand the ball to the ref, and you don't spike the ball before you get in the end zone. And you act like you've been there before. So I'm on set, and my body's going like, "Oh my gosh, it's Mallory Knox." Outwardly, I'm going like, "I'm Calvin Klein. I'm cool." But inside, I'm going like, "I can't believe it. You know, this is so cool." This is amazing.
I love it.
I had a really fun experience where she was like trying to figure out where to sit, and she was improving a little, and I started improving with her, and you know, she was pretending she was on coke, and I was like playing with her with it and everything, and it was really, I mean, it was really cool. But yeah, that was a cool experience. Also to play again, like to play that, to be, you know, that one was, you know, that's a little different because you're playing someone who everybody in the world has been watching for 40 or 50 years, and you can pull up videos and everything, and you know, and I mean, I treated that like it was, I had just been hired to do a full feature biopic. You know, I read his whole biography, and you know, it's like a one scene in the show, but that's just the way I am. I'm kind of obsessive when it comes to stuff. But you know, it was very fun to prepare for that, and to learn about Calvin and learn about the Chippendales, you know, debacle and how it was started. And yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure.
It's so funny because I was just watching her in something last night, so it's just wild that we're talking about her.
Yeah.
So when you're doing, going back to a long road to Tao, when you're doing a role like this that's particularly intense, do you have sort of a method by which you kind of plug into and then plug out of the character? Just when you're, I mean, obviously at the end of a day of shooting, you go and, you know, you have your life as Jason.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious about, are you an actor who kind of tries to stay in that role, or do you plug in and out? What's your method?
I'm learning so much every day, every time I work still. And I think you never stop learning. And I think acting's so mysterious and weird. I think it's different every time, you know, like, I mean, I've noticed lately, everybody always wants to talk about, are you method or you're not method? But even like, I don't even think people understand the history of what that means. And, you know, Strasberg and Stella and their different ideas, and you know, nowadays I think people just use method as a way of saying, do you stay in character throughout, you know, filming, which that's not really what it used to mean. But to answer your question, I love to just be immersed in the process. Like there's nothing I love more than when it's time to shoot a film and just going like, okay, for the next month, I'm not going to think about my bills. I'm not going to think about my relationships. I'm not going to think about anything but this thing. And it's what's so great about filming on location, like we were in New Mexico and Santa Cruz, is, you know, you're in a hotel room, you're either on set or you're in the room. For me, I'm starving myself and out in the woods and out on the treadmill and constantly trying to lose weight for the role and stuff. So I certainly immersed myself in the subjects and the emotions of the characters throughout the filming process. You know, I wasn't in character all the time. You know, interestingly, the thing I found with this role was the character's weak he's walking with a cane, and that's how Rick was, and that's how they wanted, was to show how weak and tired he was, and that he had trouble even walking and moving around. And I didn't plan this, but when I got to set, I just found, from the time I put on my wardrobe until the time I found that it was easier for me and less energy for me to stay with the physical aspect of being weak and tired with the cane and stuff than trying to move in and out of that. And I've heard different actors talk about that. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis talks about that. He's like, for him, it would be more exhausting going in and out than just staying in,
Yeah.
And I found for this particular film, not in my psyche necessarily all the time and not in character all the time, but just physically, I would show up on set, put on the costume, and everywhere I went, I walked with a cane like I was weak and tired. We'd break for lunch. I'd put my clothes back on, stretch my back out, be in my own body for an hour. And then when it was time to go back and film the second half of the day, I'd go back, put the wardrobe on, grab the cane. And then, even if it meant, we were shooting on the other side of the parking lot and everyone's waiting for me and everyone's pissed off and I'm still just walking slow, I chose to do that. And, there's a scene in the film where I have a fall and it wasn't scripted, and I actually fell, and I think it paid off, because if I hadn't have been training myself to kind of be in that weakened state, I think I would have caught myself naturally very differently than I did when this happened. So for me, I think it's always different. It's always going to be different. You just have to figure out what parts of it serve the character better to be able to put on and take off so that you have some level of sanity, and what parts of it are actually exhausting to put on and take off and it's just easier to stay in. So for me, the physicality, I wanted to stay in as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then the days where we were filming the heavier scenes, there's some pretty heavy scenes in this film. There were a few days in there where it all just ran together.
Yeah.
I was the day that we filmed the scene where Lance passes, I was more or less in some form of the character that entire day. I was kind of a wreck, just dealing with the emotions that were coming out and happening that day. So
the makeup, how skinny and sickly you got, was amazing and so gross. And the makeup that they did was so realistic. I'm surprised. I think our judges maybe didn't realize how great the makeup was because it was so real looking.
Yeah.
And sorry, our hosts didn't see the film, but I did see the film. I have that privilege of getting to watch the films, and it was very realistic. This was probably the most realistic bruising and thin skin. Yeah. His skin was very thin looking. So that, I just want to say, that was really amazing. You looked really sickly, so good job on that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was really, really hard. I lost 35 pounds, and I'm not, I walk around at 180 or somewhere around there, and I was down, below 150 when we shot that final scene. And it was hard, but it was also something that, they didn't really ask me to lose that much weight, but for me, if you've seen the film, spoiler alert, Lance decides that he wants to take his life because he wants to die with a little dignity left. And I just felt for the audience to understand that he had to be really sick. If he was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and walking around at 180 pounds, I don't think the audience was quite understand what that decision. And right to die is a big topic that triggers people and people talk about at the Q&As and stuff. So it was really, something I felt like I had to do in order to honor the decision he made.
Yeah. And so with that, I'm thinking, you weren't really asked to lose that much weight, or were you asked to lose any at all?
No.
Mm-mm. So what was that first bite of hamburger like after filming?
Okay. I felt like I had some sort of like dirty, addiction of some sort, because when I'd be in my hotel room at night in that month in New Mexico, I was on Instagram just looking at food like I was some kind of a addict or a weirdo, and I had reservations made for like the next 6 weekends at restaurants all over Los Angeles. After we wrapped, I had like all my meals mapped out where I was, I mean, for some reason, I was just chicken and waffles was the thing that I don't even really like or eat often, but I was craving that the most. It was one of the first meals I had. But yeah, there was a burger actually in Las Cruces at the winery there, Luscombe Winery, that I had gone there one day to eat, and I had to get like just the meat with no bun and no cheese and anything else. And I was watching someone else eat like the loaded burger, and I was like, okay, that's my first meal as soon as we wrap. And so we all went together, and everyone watched me cry while I'm eating this, drinking a beer and eating French fries, and just like, it was pretty magical to be able to eat again.
Those are things you need to put on your Instagram videos of that.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my gosh.
You're right.
But I think a lot of people don't realize, they think like, oh, I could be an actor, but they don't really realize all this extra that goes into it, of how much your afterlife is really affected the whole time that you're working on a film.
Yeah.
And even after, I mean, now this film has been completed for months now, and here you are still working on it technically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, I feel like I have so many more questions, but I can't remember them because I was just thinking about, oh my God, all that food that you didn't get to enjoy.
I joke that the best acting in the whole film is there's a scene where I'm in bed and they bring me some fish tacos. And when you have HIV and you're on the medicine, food doesn't taste good. And so I had to take a bite of these fish tacos, pretending like, my mouth's dry and I don't want to eat and I'm not hungry. But I'm actually like starving to death. And I was like, that's the best acting in the film right there. If anyone believes that I don't want to just maul these fish tacos right now.
That's so funny.
The entire time you were talking, all I kept thinking was, oh my gosh, I bet I wouldn't be able to have coffee those days. That would be right into.
Still had coffee. I'm an espresso like aficionado.
Right.
I still have my coffee. There's not a day that went on that day I didn't have my coffee.
Noted. Then I could be an actor. Noted.
There's never not a good day for coffee. I know we're going to wrap up soon, but I just wanted to ask you a couple of things because I live in New Mexico and we have wild horses. And I'm curious, when you guys were shooting, did you get to see some horses? I know you're a lover of them.
I am. There were some horses around where we were shooting. And not while we were shooting, but I did, after we wrapped, I went up and I saw some wild horses around Placitas.
That's where I live.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through there a few times. I've driven cross country, and I'm trying to actually get myself more into activism around what's going on with the wild horses and burros and the roundups and stuff. And it's something that's heartbreaking and complicated and hard to figure out what to do about. So I took a drive cross country in 2021, kind of looking for wild horses along the way. I went to North Dakota, I went to Montana, and saw some of the different herds. And it's breathtaking to see the spirit of those animals when they're in the wild is really something else. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. It's cool.
What are you working on now?
I just booked a play at La Mama, which is a really well-known off-Broadway theater. It's the oldest off-Broadway theater still standing in New York City in the East Village. So there's a play called Swallows. It's new work, experimental theater there in La Mama. I'm honored to be performing on that stage in that place. It's got amazing list of people who perform there. And so that's coming up in late March and April. Other than that, it's been quiet, but I'm filling up with auditions and got some callbacks. And I think it's starting to really, really pick up. I split some of my time in New Mexico and LA and New York, kind of work all those markets. And hopefully I'll be working on a lot here in these next months as things start to pick up. I'm always in class working on things. I'm also working on writing some of my own scripts and stuff too. So when I'm not in a role, I'm kind of working on my own stories.
And where can people find you find out more about you, follow you? Where would you?
Yeah, probably the best is Instagram. I'm not super active as I probably should be on there. I resist the social media quite a bit, but my handle is The Art of Bernardo.
Mm.
So at The Art of Bernardo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook also. Yeah, that's probably the best place to keep track. I post all my bookings and the play and films that are coming out and TV shows I book and stuff. I put up there.
Very cool. And the play that you're just going into, when does that release?
It first show is March 29th or 28th, the last weekend of March, and then it'll run into first couple weeks of April. Just about, I think it's just a couple weeks, 8 or 10 shows or something like that. So,
well, congratulations on everything, and
thank you.
So nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor. It goes by fast.
I know.
Come back anytime because you're busy.
Yeah, please come back anytime. It's been great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll be right back after this.
Richard, are you excited that we're doing the festival at the Hilton?
Beyond, not just for the festival, but that we're doing everything at the Hilton. We're staying there. The festival's there. I'm going to go to the bar there. I'm going to have breakfast there. It's like one-stop shop.
Yay! It's actually the Hilton Melbourne we're staying in, I think.
I'm very excited.
And guests can also stay there too.
They sure can. They can call. You have to call. The number's down below. And then you use the guest code WOLFHEART to unlock exclusive savings for that weekend.
Fantastic. I can't wait to see everybody there.
It'll be fun. See you soon.
Check the links below or call 321-768-0200 and use code WOLFHEART when booking to unlock exclusive deals for our festival guests.
Well, that was fun.
Oh, he's great.
He's lovely and so articulate and so well versed in lots of subjects. I love that.
I love his the way he just is excited to tackle so many different characters.
Yeah. And the challenge of that role, I'm sure, was just stunning. I mean, we really didn't get too deeply into that, but wow.
Yeah. And then he goes from screen. I love that he loves theater.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be in a play. It's so fun.
Yeah.
I love creative people.
Yeah, me too.
What have you been creating?
Oh my gosh, what have I been creating? Oh, I'm doing a lot of illustration right now.
Oh.
I'm illustrating, finishing one book and starting another. So that's one of my things. And then my podcast. I've been working like crazy on mine. I'm sure you have for yours.
A little bit. Are these illustrations, are they for your books or other people's?
These are for other authors that they've written the story and I illustrate it. But I do have a view to doing my own this year in the second half of the year. So it's taken long enough to get to do my own. So,
well, when it comes out, I know a festival you could probably put.
Oh yeah, I will.
Yeah,
admit it. How about you? What have you been up to? I've missed you.
I know. I feel like we've been away for a long time from actually recording episodes. My show, I just started I'm just editing it for another podcast. So 2025 is going to be a fun year for Make Your Day Richer LLC.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I've got lots of stuff coming up. A lot of the end of the year podcasters a lot of times will take off. That'll be like the end of their season. So I've returning clients that are going to start recording again. So I'm going to be busy.
That's fun. Yeah. I've got a bunch of interviews lined up for this year. I'm really excited about it.
Good.
We love this kind of stuff, don't we?
Listen, it's not a bad gig, Linda.
No, it's fun. It's a super fun gig. And I've missed being here with y'all. So yay.
Well, we're back, baby. We're back.
That's right, baby.
So make sure you like, subscribe, share, rate, thumbs up, heart. What else is there? I don't know.
Put hearts, put stars, tell your friends about it, share, rate, review, help us get the word out. Yeah. It always helps.
And aren't we coming up with an episode of questions all for us?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're doing that soon, actually. Oh, that'll be exciting.
That'll be fun. You can more about Kyle and I and Jacqueline.
We'll get real deep
soon to a podcast platform near you. Okay, goodbye, everyone. See you next week.
See you next time. Bye.
Wolf Media Festival Podcast with Kyle Hollingsworth, Richard Wilmore, and Jacqueline Wolfhart. Produced and edited by me. I'm Jacqueline Wolfhart. Don't forget to check out the links in the description to find ways you can connect with our guests. Thanks for checking us out today and tuning in every week wherever you get your podcasts.